guys, my name is Jessica Leichtweisz, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. I've been working with families affected by autism just like yours for more than 10 years, and it's my passion to come onto this channel every week and to answer your questions about how you can help your child. So this week I'm going to be tackling a question that a parent sent in, and that's when is it okay to use a timeout and when is it not okay to use a timeout? So as an ABA person, a behaviorist, and what that means is we look at why a child is engaging in a behavior. Now, to us, it's less important as to what a behavior looks like. A child can throw something, they can throw themselves on the floor, they can hit someone, and we treat them all as identical behaviors, even though they look differently, if they have the same function. So here's what I want to say. A timeout can be a really effective punishment procedure. It's really simple. It's not really that aversive or harmful to a child, and it can be really easy for a parent to use. It also can be really immediate and provide a child a really clear understanding for the fact that they did something wrong, right? So it's often a go-to procedure for a lot of people. It can be a go-to procedure for parents, and it's really effective and is often used in classrooms. You know, if the child isn't acting out and they're acting out in a classroom, they give them a timeout. Here's the trouble. Sometimes people will use a tantrum when the reason a child isn't engaging in a behavior is actually to escape a task they've been asked to do. In that case, using a tantrum can backfire. So let's consider an example. Let's say that Tommy is on the floor and he's playing with his trains. And, you know, mom says, okay, it's time to clean up the trains and come have dinner. Well, Tommy starts crying and crying and crying. And then he starts, you know, throwing the trains at mom, and he is upset and he's having this tantrum because he does not want to clean up his trains. Now, the demand is clean up the trains, right? So now he is upset, he's engaging in this behavior, he's not cleaning up the trains. So let's say mom says, that's not nice, don't throw those trains at me, I'm gonna give you a timeout. Now you have to sit in this chair for 2 minutes, think about what you did. Now that's something that's probably, it doesn't seem super dramatic, right? Anyone on this channel can know that that's probably happened sometime in their day, maybe it wasn't trains, but at some point, you know, your child didn't wanna do something you asked them to do. A timeout seems like it made sense. But here's the problem, it doesn't actually make sense in this example. And the reason being is because the reason why Tommy was having a tantrum is because he didn't want to clean up, simple. So now that he's sitting in his chair, he's like, yeah, I got you. I didn't want to clean up and I'm not cleaning up for 2 minutes. So he's actually getting everything he wanted by having his timeout. So the behavior, rather than being punished, which will decrease the likelihood it will happen again, it's actually been reinforced, which will increase the likelihood it's going to happen again. So here's an example in a very similar fashion where the behavior could look identical and it might make sense to have a timeout. So let's say that Tommy and his sister Sue, that they're playing with trains. Okay, so they're playing and they're playing really nice. And, you know, Tommy doesn't really want to share. He wants all his trains for himself, but he's having really fun with his trains. And all of a sudden he gets mad because his sister knocked Percy off the track, and then whack, you know, she gets hit with Thomas. And she starts crying, and then, you know, mom comes in and she's like, Tommy, that's not nice. You have to sit in the chair for 2 minutes, okay? Well, now this is actually in a very appropriate consequence because Tommy wants to be playing trains and he's not playing trains as a result in the behavior he engaged in. So rather than getting his Percy back that his sister knocked off the track, he actually wound up losing access to all of his trains for 2 minutes. So in this case, it actually makes a lot of sense to have a timeout. Now, the behaviors themselves actually were pretty similar, right? First, he was on the floor and he was throwing trains at mom, and then in the second example, he threw his train at his sister. So it actually kind of, well, why does it make sense in one instance and why does it make sense in another instance? It's because it really matters much less what a behavior looks like than why a child is engaging in that behavior. So if you're a parent, you know, you want to use a timeout, you're a teacher, you want to know if it's okay to use a timeout, the answer to your question is yes, it is okay to use a timeout, except for when a child's engaging in a tantrum to escape a demand you ask them to do, because they're actually going to be getting what they wanted when you give them that timeout. One of my favorite ways to make sure people understand this is say, rather than looking at it as a timeout, look at it as a removal from a time in. If the child doesn't want to be doing something at that moment, it's actually not really a timeout. So, yes, use a timeout. It can be really effective. But again, rename it and reframe it, relook at it as a removal from a time in. So I hope that you loved this video. Excuse me, I love to answer your questions. Head over to parenttrainingvideos.com. That's my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, then you can head over to there, subscribe to the channel. I put out free content several times a week. I would love to hear what you're taking away from this video. So just throw a comment onto the video, let me know what you're taking away, and let me know if you have any questions, because I read every comment, and I usually make a question for a video for every question that I'm asked. So make it an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the channel soon. Take care.